Yeah, no, I asked you questions.
Lost like 15 pounds.
What you do, what you want to do. Not because, look, I
Dropped 10.
here, I came here to be.
Bench went down 20 pounds.
I didn't know you were there before I said, screw that, I want to go back. And then I took some time and tried to figure out what I was.
I might not be able to bench 225 in a few weeks.
Like economics a lot, like political science a lot. I have no idea what I wanted to do with that.
Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to come tonight. If you haven't done it already, Canvas in attendance. And we're also doing do you want to introduce the New York City tour?
Sure,
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So, it's on Instagram, LinkedIn, everywhere, but essentially we're doing a one-day real estate New York City tour where you'll actually be getting the exposure to basically all facets of real estate, ranging from development to capital markets to brokerage to private equity. So essentially, you will get a full exposure of what their different segments like, and from there, you guys can get an idea of what you want to do. We have 5 firms, potentially 6, on 2 separate days. So if you guys, is it scannable?
Yeah, it's good.
If you guys scan it, you can go to the Google form and see which different firms will be there. So looking forward to seeing you guys over there, and there are 20 spots. So get your application in as soon as possible. It will close on April 1st. So get it in ASAP. Thank you.
Yeah. And this is also on the GroupMe and Instagram as well. All right, without further ado, I'd like to introduce Corey Wescoe.
You don't need to stand anywhere in particular, do you?
No, this one.
Okay. How's everybody doing? Good. Can you guys hear me? I won't ask you to move if you can hear me. If you can't hear me, then I'm going to ask you to move. So I have a short slide deck that I'm going to run through with you guys. Just give you a little context for the company that I work for, who we are at a macro level, who we are at a micro level, what I do day to day, what our company works to accomplish day to day. And I wanted to keep that slide deck brief because I would much prefer us talk to each other. I'd rather not talk at you for a long period of time. I would rather this be interactive. I'd rather have a conversation. I'd rather, ask questions and get a better appreciation for what you all are interested in. And I'm happy to speak to whatever questions you have, whether it be through the lens of my experience in residential home building, whether it be about commercial real estate as a whole, whether it be advice that I could offer you sitting where you sit today. I am a Rutgers College alum, albeit 20 odd years ago, so it's been a while since I've been on the grounds. But I'm happy to talk to you guys about whatever you want to talk about. So to start, for those that, let me ask a question first. Aside from Keith, have any of you previously heard me speak in real estate development or real estate law? I've guest lectured in those classes over the last couple of years. One? Okay. I apologize. Some of this may be a little redundant for you. Okay. My name's Corey Wescoe. I'm the Vice President of Land Acquisition and Entitlements for a national home builder called Pulte Group. I oversee all of our company's business operations in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Like I mentioned a moment ago, I am a Rutgers College grad. I graduated in 2004 from here with degrees in economics and political science. I did not go to school to study economics and political science. I came to Rutgers to join the School of Engineering, and after a brief stay on the dean's academic probation list, I decided I was not going to be an engineer. I had to go home and had to counsel my parents that I was going to shift course and attempt to do something else. And ended up studying econ and poli-sci. So I didn't go through the business school, but I did go through econ and poli-sci, ultimately graduated with honors. And, over that junior and senior year, you know, I worked as a TA, I worked as an RA in both econ and poli-sci, and I had every intention of staying in academia. I thought I was going to stay in school. I thought I was going to go on and get a master's, thought I was going to go on and get a PhD. I thought I was going to be a professor. That was what I had intended to do as I was working my way through those concentrations in those majors. Wrote my senior honors thesis, and it burned me out, if I'm being completely candid with you. Burned me out, and you know, during that time, I had been doing winter and summer internships with Pulte Homes. Our name used to be Pulte Homes before we got really cool and decided to call ourselves Pulte Group. But as an intern for Pulte Homes, you know, what was I doing? I was working in the field. I was doing whatever they needed to do as an intern. I was unloading window trucks, I was digging holes, I was carrying lumber around, I was sweeping garages, whatever they needed to do. But they were giving me increasing levels of responsibility each year that I came back, to the point where, you know, my last internship, I was overseeing the construction of homes. I was overseeing the installation of infrastructure in the field. I was overseeing land development. I was overseeing budgets as an intern. It was a great experience. It was not something that I was thinking was potentially a career path, but I enjoyed it. It was good work. Felt like I was learning. I got to be outside. And as I was kind of coming to this realization towards the end of my senior year that, hey, maybe I need to take some time and come back to academia later, Pulte was kind enough to offer me a position. They felt as though they had invested enough in me through my time as an intern that I should come to work full time. So I started there as a market analyst in 2004. Like I mentioned, I thought that would be a couple years stay where I would get some real world experience, I'd save some money, and then I would come back to academia. That was 21 years ago. I have stayed with Pulte the entirety of my career. It's the only company I've ever worked for, and that is, I would say that is unusual. Most of my friends that I went to school here with and graduated with are all on their 5th, 6th, 7th assignment. I am a bit unique in that regard when I think about the folks that I went to school with. Why have I stayed there that long? Let's talk about my company a little bit. So Pulte Group is the 3rd largest publicly traded home builder in the country. We are, I think that's dated now, I think we're 78 years old. Our company was started by Bill Pulte at the age of 18. That picture up in the right-hand corner there is Bill standing on the back of his pickup truck. He built his first home at the age of 18 in Detroit, Michigan. And he grew that business from there. He grew that business into one of the largest home builders in the country. We are a Fortune 500 company. We currently operate 45 divisions across the nation's footprint. In our time, we have delivered over 800,000 homes, and you can see we're a pretty sizable workforce in and of ourselves. I won't speak to each one of these bullets, but I offer them to you as a measure of the company's scale, as a measure of the company's resources, as a measure of the company's reach, right? We're very well capitalized. Everything we do is with our own working capital. Everything we do is with Pulte working dollars. So we're unique in that we don't go to the bank. We don't go to the capital funds. We don't go to the BlackRocks of the world to source capital for the projects that we want to invest in and the projects that we want to build. And that, you know, that certainly gives us an edge. That doesn't make me unique from other national home builders like us when you talk about companies like Lennar, or you talk about companies like D.R. Horton or Toll Brothers, right? They have their own money as well. But when I'm competing day to day on the street against any variety of other real estate developers, it is nice to be able to say, hey, listen, I don't have to go get a loan to do this project today. I have funds sitting for me in Atlanta, Georgia that are meant to be deployed towards new real estate development, right? But at a high level, you can see how the company is performing. Last year was a banner year for us. If you guys are in this room, clearly you have an interest in and of yourselves in real estate. You'll know that the residential home building space is a good space right now. It is a healthy space right now. Sure, there is turbulence. Sure, there is unpredictability. Sure, there is volatility. But on the whole, right, the country by and large is heavily undersupplied when it comes to housing, right? And in New Jersey, we certainly all recognize that because everything is really freaking expensive. That is a function of supply and demand. That was one of the first things that I learned here when I got to the economics program was anytime anybody asks you a question and you don't know the answer, just say supply and demand and shut up and you'll sound brilliant. That was my economics undergrad advisor told me that. Can you believe that? I still use it though. But again, $17 billion in revenue, 31,000 homes closed last year, in excess of $5 billion in pre-tax income. Pretty good year for the company. We expect this year to be a pretty good year as well. Not sure if it'll be as good as 2024 was, but at a high level, we still believe that the country is largely undersupplied, and we come into 2025 with pretty significant backlog. Any questions on any of this? If I say anything that you don't understand or misheard or need clarification on, stop me. You don't have to wait till the end.
So Pulte Group does only for sale?
Pulte Group is exclusively a for-sale home builder. We do not build rental homes. We do not build, multifamily apartments. We do not build commercial space, industrial space. We do build a lot of age-restricted housing, albeit not assisted living or independent living, continuing care. That's a different market segment. So that was kind of who we are at the macro scale. Let me talk a little bit about who we are at the micro scale. When I say the micro scale, that is the division that I oversee, right? So again, that's the division of our company that oversees our business operations in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, right? So we've been at this, I would say, since the mid-90s in this marketplace. Again, the company is almost 80 years old, right? But we've only been operating here in the northeastern part of the country since the mid-90s. So by comparison, right, to a K-Hovnanian that is corporately based here and was born here, we haven't been here as long. Similar with Toll Brothers, who's based in Pennsylvania. They've been here an awful lot longer. But we've been able to grow our business, I would argue, more quickly. My division typically builds on the order of 500 to 600 homes per year. And that revenue estimate is fluid. It all depends on the mix of communities and types of homes we're building and what locations we're building them in. But it's a fair kind of representation of the size of our division's business. All walks of life in terms of both consumer segments and in terms of the types of homes we build, right? Not every home makes sense for every type of buyer in the home buying community, right? So, what is important to a millennial or a young couple or a young professional is not the same as what's important to a young family with children, is not the same as what's important to a downsizer or empty nester, is not the same as what's important to somebody who may be seeking an age-restricted offering, right? So it's very important in our business to make sure that our portfolio is as diversified as possible. I never want to have all my eggs in one basket, right? And what I mean by that is I don't want to be exclusively serving one consumer segment, and I don't want to be serving them exclusively with one product offering, right? And when I talk about product, what I mean is type of architecture, right? Whether that be a traditional single-family home on a yard, whether it be a townhome, whether it be a condominium, right? I'm going to build all different types of homes in particular locations based on what I think the consumer is going to want in that particular environment, right? Because again, not all consumers are created equal, right? The young professional that I sell homes to in Essex and Hudson County in northeastern New Jersey may have completely different needs and wants than the same kind of young professional that may be shopping in between Princeton and New Brunswick, right? They might have similar jobs, they might have similar incomes, but their interests might be completely disparate. What they value aside from where they work might be completely different. What kind of home they want to live in might be completely different. They might have interest in mass transit, they might not. They might want to be able to get to the Jersey Shore in under an hour, they might not, right? All these things matter when we're making what we hope are very calculated decisions around where we invest, who we believe we're attempting to serve, and what we're going to offer them. This, I apologize if you can't see this. It's a bit of an eye chart. But this is a little bit of a flow chart on, how we approach the market, right? When we're out there trying to grow our business, and to grow our business, what I mean is we're trying to acquire more property. We're trying to add more land to our pipeline. We're trying to identify places that we're going to control, try to entitle, try to permit that will allow us to build new residential communities, right? It starts with our market research. I was kind of speaking to that a moment ago about trying to determine where and why and who, right? If we can do that, right, we're going to go out there and we're going to get very granular in our process, trying to identify specific properties that align with the goals and objectives that we identified during the market research process. If we can find those opportunities, then we're going to try to determine what they're worth, right? You see the word underwriting there? That's when we're valuing the property. That's when we're trying to figure out, hey, we like this property, we like where it's located, it makes sense for the business we're trying to build. What's it worth? And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute or two. If we can figure out what it's worth, then we're going to try to engage the owner of that property and negotiate with them what we hope to be a fair deal for them and for us, right? I want to control that property via contract. I am not a developer that buys property as is, where is. If I like it, great, I'm going to try and control it, but I'm going to try to control it contingent upon me being able to get all the permits and approvals that I need to be allowed to build on the property. I'm not going to buy anything where I sit and hold it as a speculator, hope I get the approvals and then build it. We're a publicly traded company, and our shareholders don't like us buying land that we ultimately can't do anything with if we can't get the permits and the approvals. Yes?
So does that mean that Pulte Group focuses on, when it comes to approvals and entitlements, does Pulte Group handle that, or do you guys make the buyer get all the approvals necessary to build multifamily housing or residential?
I would tell you that the majority of the time I want to control that process. We do that. We do it in-house. That's part of what I oversee. That said, I have no pride of authorship. Whether it's me who can get home fastest, or my property owner, or a middleman who has, contract rights on the property, I have no pride of authorship. Whoever is going to get us to the finish line most efficiently in terms of obtaining all those permits and approvals that I need to build a project, that's fine. I'm happy to do it. I prefer to do it because as the end user, I want to know that I'm designing what I want to build. I don't want there to be anything lost in translation between, my team and the team that's getting the approvals. But again, ultimately, I don't particularly care. It's just most important that the deal I make is contingent upon the approvals being in place before I buy.
What does that approval process look like?
Oof, loaded question. The approvals process in New Jersey is a very convoluted, bureaucratic, messy place. if your family owns property, you know, let's imagine that your family owns 50 acres, and they're thinking of that as their 401k. They've held this property in their, you know, in your family for decades and decades and decades, with the idea that at some point in time, hey, you know what? We'll develop this, and that'll be our golden parachute, right? Just ballpark around the room. Everybody throw some gauge of, you know, time at me. How long do you think it should take to get permits and approvals to build a project in New Jersey?
How long do we think, or how long does it actually?
How long do you think?
It should take or will take.
Yeah, it should take.
How long should it take?
2 months, 3
Six
months.
6 months.
Anybody else?
Like ideally.
Government employee people.
Cool. All right, great. That helps. I would tell you that my actual experience doing this for nearly 21 years, I typically try to get between 3 to 5 years in my contracts to obtain all the permits and approvals I need to build a job. That's how fragmented the entitlement process in New Jersey is. You need local municipal approvals. You need county approvals. You need DEP approvals. You need DOT approvals. You need Soils Conservation District approvals. You need coastal approvals. You need Architectural Review Committee approvals. It goes on and on and on, and there is no clearinghouse for any of it. There is no higher power to appeal to try to consolidate the process. How many individual municipalities are there in New Jersey?
565, right?
That's right. There are 565 towns in the state of New Jersey. How many of them do you think have similar zoning ordinances?
0.
0. How many of their code officials do you think interpret the municipal land use law the same way?
0.
0. So it is a very unpredictable process we engage in when we attempt to get approvals for a project. It's very costly. What do you think my average going in budget is that I tell the company I'm going to spend when I want to get new approvals for a new piece of ground?
On just the approvals?
Just the approvals. No actual work. No physical work.
$500,000.
At least $1 million. At least $1 million. That I'm gonna risk, right? Because there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee I get the approvals. I go in and I tell my company I need this much money to see if I can get approvals for this. And I'm telling you straight face that I might not be able to get it, and that $1 million is gone. I don't get it back, right? That's R&D money for home builders. Yes?
How do you propose that to the seller? That you tell them how long it's like? What kind of time period are you telling them?
Again, usually in my contracts, I'm trying to get at least 3 years from the date we sign until the date that I have to have everything I need to build the job. And how am I selling them on that? How am I influencing that they should go along with me for this ride? Because the amount of money I can afford to pay them is expressly contingent upon those approvals. Their property is worth a fraction of what I'm offering if you can't get permits and approvals for it. If you can't, it's just open space, and they can go and sell it to Green Acres for nothing.
About what percent of the time would you say that you're able to get all those permits for a property when you start investing into it?
What
What percentage
you're
is that?
asking what my percentage of getting home is?
Yeah.
So I like to be as selectively aggressive as possible in the properties that I choose, right? There are a lot of developers that try to sign up everything in the universe, and they throw it all at the wall and they see what sticks. My company's different in their approach, right? We try to only target the things that we really, really want, and we try to work really hard during our due diligence process to determine if there's a reasonable probability that we're gonna get home on this. What do I mean when I say that? We're gonna try to engage with the municipality that we're trying to work within as early and as upfront as possible to figure out, hey, look, we've got this in mind. Does this align with your zoning? Usually we know that. We've already done the research on the zoning, right? If it doesn't, then we've got to put together hopefully a very compelling case as to why they should consider changing their zoning for what we're proposing, right? And depending on where you are and depending on the demographics of that location and depending on the socioeconomics of that location, depending on the politics of that location, that can be wildly controversial or we could be well received. It varies tremendously depending on where you are. So just continuing through our flow chart here, right? If I can get the thing under contract, I'm gonna go through my due diligence that I just kind of spoke to a little bit. I'm gonna spend all the time and money trying to get the approvals. Hopefully we do. And then I'm gonna break ground and I'm gonna start putting infrastructure in the ground and then I'm gonna open for sale and I'm gonna start building houses. Does that make sense at a high level?
Do you look to keep any of these properties to rent, or is it all to sell?
No, we sell everything. There are lots of companies that do rental. I would argue in New Jersey there are more companies working to do rental than there are companies looking to do for sale.
Right, because I'm thinking like all this time and effort you want to get.
Yeah, so I mean, there have certainly been conversations, during my tenure within the company about whether there should be an arm of our business that is, exclusively focused on building that kind of income producing asset, part of our portfolio. Why should we do things like that? Because, hey, look, when there is a downturn, when there is a recession, right? It would be nice to be able to just collect rent and not have to worry about, hey, well, people aren't buying houses right now, right? Why does the company ultimately not make the decision to go in that direction? I would, look, I'm not the CEO of the company, but I would tell you that most of the time when we have those conversations, the fear is the risk of the dumb tax that we're going to pay trying to learn how to do something that a lot of other people already know how to do really well. It's the same reason you don't see more and more people entering the for-sale home building space, because they don't have to compete against guys like me and Toll Brothers and Lennar that already know how to do this very well.
I'm guessing it also helps with the ideology of not going out for loans, because if you sell it, you're going to get that liquidity.
I think, yeah, that could be a part of it. I think the bigger piece of it, again, for us is that, again, we continue to believe that the country is very, very heavily undersupplied, and that there is, by and large, fairly strong demand. And again, me operating here in the Northeast, look, New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the country, and they're not making new land. So if I can get new supply on the ground, and as long as our employment corridor remains strong between Philadelphia and New York, I feel pretty confident that there's going to be an audience for what I have to offer.
Who are the buyers of these homes? Hypothetically, could Blackstone purchase like the entire compound, and then could they rent it out to, retail people who are looking to buy a home, or does the Pulte Group sell directly to individual families? How does that work?
Yeah, our business is targeted to sell to primary residents, right? We're looking to sell our homes to people that intend to live there. I can't speak for other divisions within the company that may engage in that, but at least here in the Northeast, we have not done like package deals with, home for rent developers, or investor landlords, if you will, right? It's not like BlackRock's calling me up and saying, hey, I see you have a project, on Route 1 in New Brunswick. I'd like to buy 20. Nobody's making that call to us. Why are they not? Number one, we wouldn't sell that to them because that, truthfully, in my estimation, would be unfair to the people that I have sold a home to that do intend to live there and do intend to raise a family there and do intend to plant roots there. So we build restrictions into our homeowner association documents that preclude that. That's number one. Number two is that institutional buyer that comes and knocks on, somebody like my door and says, I'd like to buy 20 of those today, they want a massive discount. And I have no incentive to give that discount. I don't need to sell 20 houses to one buyer that badly. If the macro economy shifted, dramatically in the other direction, and we found ourselves in a 2008 recession, could the company's philosophy on that kind of prospect change? Sure it could. Sure it could. But at least for now, there's no incentive for us to do that.
Do you guys only build homes for like a certain demographic in terms of income? Do you only build high wealth or high income individuals, or you build houses for anyone across the board?
Yeah, great question. So I have offerings throughout the state right now where, you've got low and moderate income segments of projects where if you qualify from an income standpoint, we sell for $100,000 to $250,000. At the same time, I have projects throughout the state where the going in price is $1.5 million. So again, I try to have our portfolio be as diverse as I can. I'd love to be in all the best locations, but at the same time, I like being in kind of a broader, diverse cross-section of locations because it allows us to present, again, more diverse value propositions to the home buying community, right? Because not everybody can afford $1 million. It's absurd. It really is. I think about, when my wife and I, when we bought our house, and I'm dating myself, I'm just making myself feel old. I'm here back at, at my school, and I'm just gonna keep saying things that make me feel old. We bought our house in 2012. I live in Somerset County. We have a 1965 Center Hall Colonial on an acre of property. It's nice, it's fine, right? My company just finished building a transit-oriented development in downtown Somerville, if any of you are familiar with Somerville. We built 156 homes at the foot of the train station, a stone's throw from Division and Main Street in Somerville. Really nice location. What I bought my house for in 2012 is less than what we were selling 1,200 square foot townhomes for in Somerville, right? So that, again, to me, that's a reflection of how wildly undersupplied our market is. But to answer your question, right, yeah, I'm trying to get a fairly broad basket of offerings to the home buying community, because I don't want to be pigeonholed in just one market segment, because if that market segment dries up, then I'm done. I want to appeal to all walks of life if I can.
So you just mentioned you build a townhome development with 156 different homes, and do you ever do just individual properties as well? Do you ever have high net worth individuals come to you with development ideas and ask you to develop their home for them, pretty much? Or are they
we're not a custom builder. We're what I would call a production builder. I'm trying to add to the business every year, and I'm trying to grow the business, and I'm trying to grow the business in what I'd argue is kind of a meaningful year over year progression, right? So what does that mean? it means I may be trying to grow the size of our business 10 to 15% year over year, right? So if I told you before we did 500 homes last year, well, I'm trying to do 550 this year. And then I'm trying to do over 600 the next. And I'm trying to get to 700 the year after that, right? That's my 5-year growth plan, right? I can't really get there doing a spot lot here that we sell for $2.5 million and a spot lot here that we sell for $3 million. Sure, maybe it's very profitable, right? But for all the time and energy and resources that I'm gonna have to put into building that one house, I could probably take those same resources and dedicate it to trying to get 100 done. It's not saying my business is the only way to do business, it's just saying that's the way it makes the most sense for Pulte Homes. Again, I won't talk through all the bullets up here, but we've spoken to this a little bit in terms of how fragmented a state we are, and ultimately how that leads to it being a fragmented process when we're out in the marketplace trying to find places that we're going to invest in to try and build new residential communities. Any questions on anything you see up here?
What do the colors mean?
The colors.
It's like red, green, blue.
Okay. The color. I had to make sure I knew the answer to your question. So, when I come up with my business plan for the year, right, and I talk about, let's not talk about Pennsylvania for a second. Let's just talk about New Jersey, right? The company, right, I'm telling them that there are regions within the state that I can bunch together and are more alike than less alike, right? So in terms of the colors you see up here, right? The green, right? That's what I represent to the company as, hey, that's North Jersey, right? And then the blue is what I characterize to the company as Central New Jersey. Yes, Central New Jersey exists. That's not a debate. The red is what I characterize as South Jersey, right? And each of those regions respectively have different economies of scale. They have different trade bases that we use. Their consumers have different wants and needs, right? The folks that I sell to in the green care very much about how quickly they can get to New York City. The folks I sell to in the blue care very much about how quickly they can work on the Route 1 corridor between Edison and Princeton. The folks in blue care very much about how quickly they can get to the beach, right? The folks in the red to the east side, they might also care very much about how quickly they can get to Avalon and Stone Harbor. The folks on the west side of the red might care very much about how quickly they can get over the bridge into downtown Philly, right? But I'm trying to build different business units within my geography to create economies of scale, right? So I'm bucketing them by region into my north area, my central area, and my south area.
Also in these regions, do you also account for the population density? Seeing how you build?
We care about population density. We care about critical massing of infrastructure. We care about whether there are sewer and water lines. We care about whether we can flush a toilet or not. We care about all those things. It makes a big difference, and it's reflected in the value of the land. Right? What we pay for property in North Jersey is wildly different than what we pay for land in South Jersey. And it's a function of those things that you raise, right? The density of people in northern New Jersey dwarfs the density of people in South Jersey. The availability of sewer and water capacity in central New Jersey is very different than what's available in southern New Jersey. Right? The folks in North Jersey would tell you, we're tapped out, we got nothing left. There's nothing left here to build. It's all built, it's all done, go away. The folks in South Jersey say, please come help us build, right? So the political disposition is also very different.
So you said that, I think last year, this year you built 500, and the next year you want to build 550 and so on. How are you planning on doing that if every year the available land to develop up in New Jersey get smaller and smaller?
That's why this job's hard. That's why this job's hard. There's no guarantees. I mean, I know what my business plan is. I know what my goals are. I know what my targets are. I know what I have to go out there and attempt to do. I know how I have to try to do it. But yeah, man, it's hard. It's not a slam dunk. It's not easy, right? How do we go about doing those things? Gosh, it takes a lot of research. It takes a lot of relationships. It takes a lot of branding. I do a lot of branding. I do a lot of networking. People think that all I do is buy and entitle land. I do as much selling as I do buying. I am selling our company. I am selling our competency. I am selling the value of our resources. I am selling the value of our marketing engine. I am selling working with me, right? All that stuff is real. All that stuff is real. When I first, this is silly. I don't know if you guys will find this funny or not, but I thought it was funny. When I first met my wife and we started dating, she asked me what I did, and I was trying to find a streamlined way of describing it to her, and I said, I have to make a deal. To make a project, to make a deal, I have to make 3 deals. I have to make a deal with the landowner. I have to make a deal with the municipality, and then I have to make a deal with my company. Right? If I can get all of those stars to align, then I have a good chance of making this project happen. And it's hard to do that. Sometimes you get 2 out of 3 and you can't get a 3rd. And you spend an awful lot of time and energy trying to make that happen and you go nowhere. You gotta let it go. Some of the hardest deals you do are the ones you don't. And that's a cliche, but it's real. Sometimes you have to know when to walk away. Otherwise you spend millions of dollars for nothing. It's tough. Oftentimes people are going to ask me the question, how do you decide what something's worth? There are a lot of ways, but through my company's lens, right, we're focused on 2 metrics. We're focused on what I'd call a margin threshold, and we're focused on an internal rate of return threshold, right? So if I'm trying to calculate margin, right, which is the profit that I hope to make every time I sell and close a house, right? What's my revenue? That's right. What I sold the house for, if they bought upgrades, if they bought options, if I was able to sell the property with a lot premium, because not all locations within a community are equal. So I'm going to charge more for the best locations than I charge for the lesser locations, right? All of that makes up my revenue. That's my top line, what I can sell the property for. What are my costs?
Development,
Yep.
fees, like for the regular.
Sure. Soft costs, fees, inspection fees. Sure, absolutely. What else? The land, sure. The sticks and bricks, the actual cost of the home itself, the infrastructure in the ground, my overhead, all that stuff makes up my cost structure. What's left over is my margin. All right. My company typically wants to see margins in the 20 to 24% range. Right? So you can do the math. If we sell a house for $500,000, my company hopes we're going to make at least $100,000, hopefully more, on that sale.
Is that pre-tax or?
Correct.
Yeah.
Then there is the rate of return side of it, right? And I would tell you again, corporate company, public shareholders, right? I would tell you the rate of return threshold is arguably more important to the company than the margin threshold is, right? Do you guys understand what rate of return is? Anybody who doesn't understand what rate of return is? Rate of return is, again, I'm going to my company and I'm saying, hey, I want to buy this property. It's going to cost me $30 million. And then I'm going to spend at least $1 million, if not more, getting all the entitlements I need. And then I'm probably going to spend, I don't know, maybe another 10 to 15 million to put hard infrastructure in the ground, to put all the sewer lines in, the water lines in, the gas lines in, the electric lines in. I'm going to put roads in. I'm going to grade the site. I'm going to put curb in. I'm going to put sidewalk in. I'm going to put lighting in. I'm going to put landscaping in. I'm going to make the place look like Disney World. The company says, cool, Corey, that sounds awesome. We're going to be $50 million in the hole before you deliver me a nickel back. Right? They want to know, as they're giving me the money to invest in this, how quickly do they start to see it back? Right? They're going to give me this money to deploy in the hopes that we're going to produce profits and grow the size of the business, right? They want to know, if they give me $50 million to this project, how quickly do they get their 50 back, and then how quickly on top of that do they get the profit in addition to that? Because they want to then take that money and they want to redeploy it again, and redeploy it again, and again, and again. Keep turning the money over as fast as we can. If we're turning it over fast, what does that mean? It means we're growing. Right? If we're turning it over fast, it means we're opening more stores and more new communities and more neighborhoods, and we're expanding the size of the business. Does that all make sense? Same general target, right? Company typically wants to see rate of returns on projects I want to do live in the 20 to 25% space. So if I can go through my underwriting exercise and I can come up with a compelling case for a piece of property that demonstrates to my company that we could expect to achieve 20 to 25% margins and returns, I'm going to get the green light to go forward with that opportunity. And I've got to negotiate a land deal that aligns with that.
Given that you deal with primarily single-family households, what's the high end of, what's the most expensive value rate? What's the most expensive property you sold? I'm curious.
What's the most expensive house I've sold, or what's the most expensive lot I've bought?
Ooh,
What did you mean?
I guess either.
Geez. The most expensive house we've sold in my time at Pulte. We had you guys know where Point Pleasant is? So a long time ago, there was a hospital that sat at the intersection of the Manasquan River and the Point Pleasant Canal. That hospital closed, and we bought the property and demolished the hospital, and we built 74 condominiums right there at the right there where the Manasquan River meets the Point Pleasant Canal. It's probably as pretty a location as we've done anything on in my time. This was pre-recession, so the market was very frothy, right? The market was stupid. People were making mistakes, hence recession, right? If any of you have watched the movie The Big Short, this is kind of what I'm talking about, right? We sold a few condos in that community that were in excess of $2 million. People believed in that location. It was gorgeous. We built some pretty nice condominium units there. Were they overpriced? Yeah. Didn't sell every unit in that community for $2 million. Last two buildings in that community fought their way through the recession. By the time we were getting done with it, we were probably selling things there in the 5s and 6s. So if you were the guy that bought $2 million at the outset, you didn't feel very good. But that's how things went. What's the most expensive piece of property I've bought? Oh gosh, I bought a piece of property in Florham Park a few years ago for $65 million on the front end. And then there was seller participation based on how we did through the life of the job, and we ended up sending them a check for I think $10 million more at the end of that. The piece of property that I'm building in New Brunswick right now is about $48 million. the piece of property that I'm developing with Professor Liddell down at the Princeton Junction train station is very expensive real estate. There's all types and kinds. Not all are created equal. We evaluate everything in a vacuum. There are no rules of thumb. A lot of people made mistakes in this industry pre-recession where they got on this wavelength of land is worth 30% of what you can sell the house for. Doesn't matter where it is, doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter if it has groundwater, doesn't matter if it has rock, doesn't matter if it's contaminated and needs remediation, doesn't matter if you need to build it on piles, land's worth 30%. Got a lot of people in trouble.
How exactly does like a condominium work for development for sale? Like who's like, cause if you're building like a condominium that big, who's buying, like, yeah, like, how does that exactly work?
A condominium that big meaning?
Like when you, for the Point Pleasant example, like who'd you sell the condominium to? Like individual people bought like units in a condominium to live in? Or, cause like isn't a condominium or something you rent
It's a
out?
74 unit project.
Yeah,
Those 74 units were built across 5 buildings,
okay,
right? So I would release a building at a time. And each building had X units in it. And I would sell each of those respective units to an individual customer within that building. Does that make sense?
yeah.
A couple other things just about our company that I always think are kind of special things about our company. And again, when I talk about reasons why I've been there for over 20 years, one of the things that I'm really proud of that we do is our Built to Honor program. A bunch of years ago, our company was trying to figure out what was the most impactful way for us to philanthropically give back. And, sure, we could make contributions, we could write checks, we could make donations to any variety of charitable foundations and philanthropic kind of movements. Ultimately, we decided that again what we do best is build houses, and our Built to Honor program is effectively a program where we build mortgage-free homes for veterans returning home from deployment where they've been injured, where they've been compromised in some way. So it's a program we're very proud of. I think we've built somewhere on the order of 80 houses now for returning veterans that we have gifted to these folks that have served our country on our behalf. And it's when we turn those homes over, and the picture there is actually that's a gentleman that we gifted a home to in Florence, Burlington County, New Jersey. I mean, those are some of the most rewarding days, that I have working for this company. There was a parade on the street leading up to this guy's house. It was emotional. He had a lot of the folks that he served with there. The local high school marching band came out. We had fire engines. We had emergency response vehicles. It was a show, and it was special. But that's something that we do that I think is unique about our company that we're very proud of. Some other things that we're proud of, in terms of being a best place to work. We've been fortunate to receive a lot of awards over the years for being, a best place to work. We believe that we've got a strong company culture. I think that's a hot buzzword these days that every company tries to talk about is our culture is so great. I don't always know that everybody's culture is great. I think our culture is pretty good. And these rewards are nice recognition of that. I always throw this slide up at the end of conversations I have at schools, whether I'm here or I'm at Montclair or Seton Hall or Monmouth. I speak at a lot of different schools, but that link is where you'd want to go if you were interested in looking at potential careers with my company. That's all I have in the slide deck. I'm happy to talk about anything you guys want to talk about.
Can you put the link back up?
No, you have to get it while it's up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What real estate agents do you typically contact to sell all your homes?
We don't. We have our own in-house sales team. If agents bring buyers to us, we will absolutely work with those agents, but we do not exclusively list and market our homes through brokerage agencies. We will protect folks if they bring customers to us, but we have our own salespeople that are assigned to every community that we operate.
Is that only when they're being built, like if someone sells it in the future, do you still get involved in the selling process or buying?
No. Once I have sold out the community,
The first purchase?
yeah, once I've sold out the community and once we have transitioned the neighborhood over to the homeowners association,
Oh, okay,
they're in control,
okay.
right? And if somebody there comes to a point in their life where they'd like to sell their home and move on, they're free to do so private. I have nothing to do with that.
Do you personally invest in any real estate?
I do not. And the reason is because my company would see that as a conflict of interest and they'd no longer allow me to come in every day and I need my job. I have 3 dependents at home. I need my job.
When you were in college, you had like a lot of internships and like jobs where you're like really like in like actually with actual construction. Has that been helpful in your role now, like as you kind of go into finance?
Oh man, so my internships at Pulte, again, in the winter, I was in the office and I was doing, whatever they needed, and some days that was making copies and that was shipping FedExes and that was printing plan sets. And then other days it was running financial models and other days it was, running financial sensitivities and trying to, do more interesting things. And that truthfully was the balance of an internship, right? There's lots of administrative stuff that needs to get done and there's not always people for that. And interns absolutely at my company do have to do some of that work. And then there was other stuff that I found to be very valuable. That was the winter side of it. The summer side of it, I was assigned to a community and I was out there with the construction and land development team, and my job was to help them build that community, right? So again, hey, look, some days that was unloading window trucks and other days that was sitting down with the land development contractor and trying to understand cost to complete on, installation of infrastructure and what the budget for that looked like and what the schedule for that looked like and trying to align the schedule to maintain an even flow of production through the community, right? So, I would tell you some of that experience is valuable and other parts of that experience was, hey, you're trying to establish yourself. You're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to demonstrate to people that you're a team player. You're trying to demonstrate to people that you're ambitious. You're trying to show the company that you are open-minded and willing to learn and willing to work hard. And yeah, look, some of those days, man, there's a lot of shit I didn't want to do. And then there were other days that was really exciting stuff to do, and I enjoyed it, and it was rewarding. So, my experience as an intern with Pulte, yeah, there was absolutely that balance of stuff. Do I think it makes me a better professional 20 years forward today? It's hard for me to feel like it doesn't. You know what I mean?
So, if Pulte builds for sale home, does that mean that you guys don't have any property management teams, right?
We don't have property management the way you would think of, the way an Avalon Bay has property management, right? Where there is somebody dedicated to a building and their job is to make sure everything works in that building for the duration of Avalon Bay's ownership of that asset, right? I have folks that are responsible to build the project. I have folks that are responsible to sell the project. And then we also have folks that we call our customer care team, who are responsible to make sure that after our customers have closed and are in their homes, that they have gotten the home they thought they were getting, that they have had the experience with us that we sold to them, and that, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months removed from closing, we've lived up to our promise of what we would deliver them, right? So it's not as though we hand the folks the keys to the house and say, good luck, we're out, peace, right? We do stay with them, I would say, for typically around a year or so before our folks kind of move on to their next assignment. So I wouldn't call it property management the way you think of there being a property manager in an apartment building, but we do have folks that are on our sites dedicated to that site and are dedicated to overseeing its development and the treatment of our customers, if that makes sense.
If you can go back in college, knowing what you do now and where you are now,
Yeah.
what would you change?
Oh gosh, that's tough. What would I have done different? A lot of times I think I get asked the question about, do you regret the wasted year in the School of Engineering, right? Because, look, I didn't transition well from high school to college. Everything was easy in high school. I didn't study. I didn't put in the work. I didn't put in the effort, and it was fine. I did well in high school, and I thought I could continue that kind of behavior in college, and it didn't work. I got here, and you have to study. You have to put in the time. You have to put in the effort. Would I say I wish I knew that, when I got here as a freshman? I wish I worked harder that first year in the School of Engineering. I feel pretty good about where I'm at. I feel pretty good about how things played out. I don't look at it as like this big fate thing, but it was a life lesson. I needed that course correction. I needed to learn how to think, if that makes any sense. I needed to learn how to take care of myself a little bit, right? I went to a small high school in northwestern New Jersey, right? Average class size was like 12 people. You get to Rutgers and you sit in a lecture hall with 400 people and nobody knows your name. Professor doesn't know you, doesn't care who you are in a 400-person lecture hall. That was a tough transition for me, but I had to learn from it. So I don't look back on it as something I wish I'd done different. I look back at it as something that kind of let me know maybe in a more harsh way than I was ready for at the time that, hey, we gotta make some changes. Got to adjust the way we think about things. Got to adjust the approach we take. I had to learn how to think a little bit.
How would you say the tariffs are affecting the home building space?
Yeah, great question. It is the country's changing fiscal policy, right? And things like tariffs absolutely impact our business. We are every day doing real-time estimation adjustments of what our costs are for projects. We absolutely expect our costs are going to go up. Damn near all of the lumber that we build our projects with comes from Canada. Lots and lots of materials that go into our homes come from South America. Lots of materials that go into our homes come from China, right? So we absolutely expect that our costs are going to go up. What does that mean to our bottom line? It could mean a variety of things, right? It could mean that our profitability goes down. It could mean that we take lesser margins. It also could mean that to the extent the home buyer is willing to pay more, we may have to raise our prices, right? So the easy answer to your question is, yeah, our costs are going to go up. What that means to the health of the housing economy, I'm not sure about that yet. Ask Morris Davis. What else, guys?
You mentioned before, like you look at like an area and then even amongst like, so like say you want to build like a place for like young professionals, but even in two different places in New Jersey, they might like want a different product. How do you kind of decide like what kind of product to build and what kind of like demographic or like target tenant to like aim for in the area?
Yeah, again, if we feel like we've got a read on who the location is going to be appealing to, right? Like let's say I found a piece of ground in Hoboken. I think I've got a pretty good idea who's going to show up at my door if I open a project for sale in Hoboken. I think I've got a pretty good idea who's going to show up at my door if I open a project for sale in Morristown, in Montclair, in New Brunswick, in Red Bank, right? Similarly, I think I know who's going to show up at my door if I open a project in Basking Ridge, if I open a project in Holmdel, if I open a project in Princeton, right? If I know through my institutional experience doing this, which consumer segments are likely to be most drawn to certain locations, I also then have a pretty good idea of what kind of home they're going to be interested in, what makes sense for them at this stage in their life, right? I know whether an open floor plan kitchen, living, dining room is going to be more interesting than having a finished basement. I know whether having a center hall kitchen with a large island in the middle of the house is more or less appealing than if I put it in the back of the house. I know whether 3-story or 4-story level living is more appealing than single level living, right? We kind of know from our experience dealing with these consumers, and we do an awful lot of post-closing consumer research. We try to stay in touch with our customers to understand, hey, is everything the way you would? Now, you asked me a question. What would you go back and do if you had to do it over again? We ask our customers that a lot, right? Because we are trying to improve our mousetrap the next time we lay it out, right? We are trying to make the product better. We are trying to make the neighborhoods better. We are trying to design the layouts better. We are trying to improve the quality and the amenities of our communities, right? So we are polling our customers often to understand, hope you're happy. If you're not, tell us why. If there are things we could have done better, tell us what they are, because we are going to try to incorporate those ideas in going forward production.
So, like, is there any mentor or like somebody that you looked up to throughout your career, and like, what do you learn from them in general?
That's a good question. I've been fortunate to have a couple good mentors during my time. Some are inside my company and some are outside the company. When I was an intern, my project manager, really, I thought went above and beyond to not just use me as the gopher. He made it a point to invest in me and to make sure I was learning. And I still work with that person to this day. That person, I was an intern in the field. That person was that project's project manager. I'm now the vice president of land. That person's the vice president of construction. He and I work together every day of the week. So that person's always been a mentor and a sounding board for me. Who else have I been fortunate to spend a lot of time with and learn from? Ron Liddell is somebody that I've known a long time. And he was already incredibly well established in the development community when I came into it. and was somebody that I was fortunate to meet at a young age, and Ron Liddell has always been very kind to me. And you know, in my earlier years, I think he took an interest in making sure I was involved and advising me on, you know, where I should be and what associations I should be a part of and what meetings I should be at and what networking functions I should be a part of. And, you know, fast forward, you know, where we are today, Ron Liddell and I do a lot of business together. Our companies partner often. Pulte Homes and Avalon Bay have done 4 projects together in New Jersey. So, you know, there's a lot of folks through kind of, you know, a variety of different lenses that I've been fortunate to learn from. You know, some I see every day, and some maybe I talk to, you know, once a month. Anything non-home building aside, anything you guys think about as students, anything you guys think about being here at Rutgers that I could try to help with 20 years removed from my time here? Does the busing system still suck?
Probably worse.
How's the food? Really?
No, it could be worse.
You know, Living Dining Hall's actually atrocious.
Which dining hall's the best?
I hate Living.
Which dining hall's the best now?
Atrium.
Definitely Living.
Atrium.
Get out of here.
Atrium's 100% the best. It's not even close.
You're capping.
100% the best.
Wow. Jeez.
Was the Atrium a thing?
No, it started 2 years ago.
No, yeah.
Gosh, when I was here, it was Cook Douglas.
Oh,
It was the best.
Yeah.
I still think it's pretty good. It's like for healthy food. Like,
They had
It was good.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's
It was good. We take the double E just to
I
eat
don't
there.
think I've been to Cook Douglas once. I haven't stepped
Make
foot.
friends here?
What's that?
You make good friends here?
Did I make friends here? Yeah, I did. I made friends here. I wouldn't say, you know, that I wouldn't say that I made like 100 friends here, you know. I would say I made, you know, 20 really good friends here. And those 20, you know, good friends continue to be really good friends. And our families are friends, and we travel together, and we still see each other regularly, and are still local and are still actively involved. And, you know, we go to football games, we go to basketball games, you know, we're still season ticket holders. We're all, you know, we're all proud alums. Yeah, so I would say, you know, I made a lot of close friends. I wouldn't say that, like, you know, I came out of this thing with like, you know, 300 people that I still, you know, check in with on Facebook.
Where'd you dorm?
Freshman year, I was in Bar Hall on Bush. And after that, I moved into a house on Duke Street with 8 guys for the next 3 years. I wasn't built for dorm life.
Dorms here aren't that great.
Was that?
Dorms here aren't that great.
It was all right. It was fine. It was fine, but we wanted to get off campus.
For the students that look at all this and think, oh, that's pretty exciting, what can they do to prepare for a career in this?
Yeah, I mean, first, I applaud you guys for being a part of things like this. Being really candid, I wasn't. I didn't get too involved in a lot of extracurricular activities in my time at school. I did club soccer, and then I was an RA and a TA. I think this kind of opportunity with a real estate club, I think, is great. I think you guys being involved with it and coming out on a Tuesday night is awesome. Hopefully you'll get access to a lot of really good people in the development community. Hopefully it'll make you smarter. Hopefully it'll give you some contacts. Hopefully it'll give you some inroads in the future as you get to the point in your college career where you start to think about, hey, well, you know, in my professional capacity, what have I learned and what do I want to do with it, right? I want to stress that, you know, you don't have to know what you want to do right now. You don't have to know at this point in time what you want to do. I didn't figure it out until the month before I graduated. And even then, I didn't think I was going to do that for 20 years. I've really enjoyed it. I like what I do, right? But I can't tell you I knew that that's something I wanted to do up until the point that I graduated and decided to take a job because I needed to save some money before I was going to come back and get a PhD, right? But I think it's super important for you guys to not feel the pressure of needing to know what your life's going to be at this point. get as diverse an education as you can from this place. And I don't mean that exclusively through the lens of your major, right? Try to figure out what things you like here. And I don't mean that just in terms of educational material. Try to figure out what kinds of things you like through clubs like this, right? Get involved in the broader Rutgers community, right? That's going to help you figure out more of who you are and what you'll ultimately be happy doing. I think this statistic is like 80% of people never end up doing anything associated with their major. I think that's the stat. And I believe it, right? But this place, Rutgers, is so big, and there are so many things that you don't necessarily know are there unless you proactively go out looking for them. And if you can find them, great. And some of them you may find you really like, and others you may say, hey, okay, I looked at this, not for me, move on, right? But that's something that I advise you about this place, is that there's no shortage of things to do and things to be involved with and things to be a part of. Take advantage of it.
Are you on LinkedIn?
LinkedIn?
I assume you are, right?
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay.
If you send your request in the next 10 minutes, I promise I'll accept it.
What's that?
You'll find me on there, I'm on there.
Okay.
Anything
Corey,
else,
thank you
guys?
very much. Still doing this.
What's that?
It's already way still doing. So yeah, if you guys didn't hear before, we have a New York City tour. 5, maybe 6 companies. PGIM, RXR, I'm forgetting a couple others. I think Blackstone or BlackRock as well. 2 different dates on Tuesday morning, so check it out. The link will also be on the Canvas page and the GroupMe. Thank you guys for coming tonight. Of course, yeah.
You got Pete.
All right. Does anyone need the? Oh, there's no suitable tonight, anyways. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, dude. Good questions. Good to meet you.
Appreciate it.